The moon hung low over the ancient forest, pale and silent, casting silver light across the glistening leaves. Somewhere deep within the shadows, two figures moved, one cloaked in darkness, the other trembling beneath the weight of destiny. Saren had known fear before, but nothing like this. The Alpha's eyes burned with unspoken fury, yet beneath it lingered a spark of something forbidden. His hand reached for Saren, marking him, a touch that should have been blessed, now condemned. "You're mine," the Alpha whispered, voice low, yet fierce enough to shake the stars. "Even if the world forbids it." But the clans did not forgive. Ancient laws had existed long before love, long before desire. And the moment the mark was made, a curse awakened, one meant to erase memory, to sever bond, to punish. Varen, the Alpha, felt the world tilt beneath him the moment the curse struck. Faces, names, moments, all vanished. Saren became a ghost in his mind, yet the mark on his own skin throbbed with impossible longing, a silent echo of a bond he could no longer remember. And Saren, he fled. Among humans, he hid his child, carrying the weight of a love erased, yet never forgotten by his heart. The cursed bond pulsed faintly beneath the surface, a whisper across worlds, a tether neither death nor memory could sever. Somewhere across forests, mountains, and rivers, the Alpha wandered, unaware that the one he had claimed still lived, still loved, and still waited. The curse had taken everything, but it had not taken the bond itself. Because bonds like theirs, ancient, forbidden, unbreakable, always find a way. The moon hung low above the valley of the clans, pale and thin as a blade. Wind slid through the hollows like the breath of ghosts, carrying the echo of flutes from the mountain shrine. Saren walked alone along the stone path, his hands wrapped in the loose sleeves of his pale robe. Every sound felt sharp tonight, the crackle of frost, the slow thud of his heart, the faint hum of the seal burning on his neck. He was not supposed to be here. Omegas of the Silver Moon clan never crossed into the Crimson Fang territory, not even for prayer. But he came anyway, because Varen was waiting. Varen always waited in silence. Like the mountain itself, he stood near the sacred tree where the roots coiled over the ground in black spirals. His armor was undone at the collar, and his hair was tied loosely behind his neck. When he saw Saren, the steel in his eyes softened. "You came," he said. "I said I would." The words carried so much more than promise. They carried risk, longing, and something neither of them dared name. The law of the clans forbade an Alpha and Omega from opposing lineages to bond. The punishment was exile, or worse, a curse that erased the soul's memory. Yet Saren had crossed the border 3 nights in a row. Varen reached out, Saren took his hand. For a moment, the world became very still. The flutes stopped. Even the wind paused, as though listening to them breathe. Saren felt the mark under his skin pulse, the one that had appeared the night Varen saved him from the spirit hounds. It was faintly red now, like an ember refusing to die. "They'll notice soon," Saren whispered. "The elders, the seers, they'll feel it." "Let them," Varen murmured. "Let them see what they tried to bury. I would rather be cursed than pretend I never found you." Saren's eyes glistened. "You don't understand what that means." Varen stepped closer, close enough for Saren to feel the warmth through his armor. "I do, and still." His hand rose, fingers brushing the mark at Saren's throat. The contact sent a shiver through both of them, and light shimmered between their palms like a ripple of flame. The bond answered before words could. It was wild, ancient, and defiant. The mark flared to life. Saren gasped, clutching at Varen's sleeve. "Stop, Varen, stop, the seal." "I can't," Varen said, voice rough, almost broken. "You're already mine." The air split with thunder. From the mountain shrine came the toll of the curse bell. 3 long, terrible notes that meant the law had been broken. Varen felt the ground tremble beneath his boots, the scent of smoke and ash filling the forest. The spirits were awake. "Run," he ordered, pulling Saren toward the woods. But the bond was already glowing too bright. It seared their veins. burning through the invisible threads that held their souls apart. Saren cried out, his body trembling under the light. "Varen, I won't let them take you." He drew his blade and slashed the air, breaking a path through the vines of black fire that erupted around them. The curse descended like a storm, whispering words older than the clans. Blood ran from his palm, falling onto Saren's mark. The last thing Saren saw was Varen's face, bright, fierce, desperate, as the curse circle closed. Then, everything shattered into silence. When the wind returned, the valley lay quiet. The sacred tree had turned to stone, its roots clutching the earth like frozen serpents. The only sound was the faint cry of a child spirit drifting through the fog. Somewhere beyond the mountains, the Alpha woke alone, eyes blank with memory loss. And far away, hidden among the humans of the lowlands, an Omega opened his eyes to a world that no longer remembered his name. Varen wandered through the halls of his clan's fortress, every step echoing hollowly against cold stone. The morning light filtered through high windows, glinting on banners of crimson and gold, yet it brought him no warmth. Something was missing. Someone. His chest ached as if it had been hollowed out by invisible hands, a gnawing emptiness that no order of the elders, no command of the clan could fill. He reached for memories he no longer owned. Faces blurred, laughter lost, the soft brush of hands against his skin, all gone. He tried to call Siren's name, but the sound felt foreign on his tongue. A word he had once cherished, but now could not place. Even the mark on his palm, faint and fading, did not stir recognition. It was a cruel gift from the curse. The body remembered, the heart did not. Meanwhile, far from the mountains, Siren moved silently through the human village. He wore a cloak that swallowed his frame, hood drawn low over pale features, hiding the faint pulse of the bond still faintly glowing beneath his collarbone. Nights were the hardest. Every shadow, every whisper of wind, carried memories that gnawed at him. Varen's laughter, the warmth of his palm, the urgency in his voice as they fled from the curse. Yet no one here could see what he carried. Not the humans, not the merchants, not even the stray dogs that followed him for scraps. His child, small and quiet beneath his heart, stirred as he walked. The baby's presence was both a comfort and a constant reminder of what he had lost. Siren pressed a hand against his stomach, whispering promises that felt like echoes into a world that refused to answer. Back in the fortress, Varen sat in the council hall. The elders spoke in clipped tones, their words distant and strange. The seal has passed. The law must be upheld. Their faces held no warmth, only authority. Varen could not comprehend it. Something in him fought against the distance, against the cold formality. He could not remember why, but a fire burned in his chest, a yearning he could not name. That evening he wandered the outer terraces, staring at the horizon, where the lowlands met the mountains. A wind carried a faint, sweet scent he could not place. He inhaled sharply. Something tugged at the edges of memory. Soft, tender, unbearably familiar. But it slipped away before he could grasp it. Siren, in the village, prepared for another night of concealment. The villagers knew him only as a quiet, odd craftsman. No one suspected the power he carried, the bloodline he bore, or the truth of his past. He glanced at the small bundle of cloth that covered his child, sighing softly. The bond with Varen was alive in him still, quiet but pulsing. He could feel it reach across the distance, a thread tangled in time, and it ached. The night deepened. The moon rose, pale and thin, casting silver light across both lands. The fortress where Varen dreamed without memory, the village where Saren hid with his child. Somewhere in the shadows, the curse slept, waiting for the threads to tangle once more. Somewhere their souls whispered across the void, seeking, yearning. The pieces were scattered, the bond broken, yet the pulse of their connection remained, subtle, insistent, unyielding. The wind carried the scent again. Varen froze on the terrace, nostrils flaring as the faint sweetness brushed against him, an echo of something he could not name. His heart thudded with confusion, an instinct older than thought, older than law. He could not remember the face, the name, the promise. But the pull was undeniable, a thread tugging him toward a distant shadow he had never seen, yet somehow knew. In the village, Siren crouched beside a small fire, tending to the bundle that contained his child. The night was quiet, but he could feel it, the bond. Even under the curse, even with Varen's memories stripped away. Pulsed faintly through the world, it was like a whisper brushing against his mind, a call he could not ignore. He closed his eyes, pressing a hand over the mark on his neck. "I'll keep you safe," he whispered, voice trembling. "Even if he forgets, even if the world forgets us, I'll keep you safe." The firelight flickered across his face, softening the sharp edges of exhaustion. Siren had grown accustomed to hiding, to running, to living in fragments of a life that felt stolen. Yet the child beneath his heart was a living reminder of love that had survived curses, of a bond that even memory could not fully sever. Far away, Varen wandered the forest surrounding the fortress. His senses, sharper than any human's, caught a movement, light as a shadow, soft as wind through leaves. He turned instinctively, heart lurching with an emotion he could not name. For a brief moment, the world seemed to pause, and he felt a faint stir of recognition, not in memory, but in instinct, in soul. The elder's words haunted him, the law, the curse, the price of forbidden bonds. But Varen felt none of their authority here. All he felt was an invisible thread pulling him across the distance, a tug at his heart that refused explanation. Siren moved through the village streets, careful to avoid human eyes. Every step carried weight, not just for himself, but for the life he protected. The bond hummed faintly beneath his skin, a rhythm that echoed in the child's quiet movements. Somewhere, across mountains and forests, Varen was feeling the same tug, unknowingly responding to a connection older than the curse. Night stretched endlessly and the stars blinked cold above. Somewhere in the valley, the sacred tree stood frozen in stone, a silent witness to what had been lost and what might yet be found. Their souls were separated by law, by curse, by memory, but not by the bond, not by the pulse that still lingered in Saren's veins, in Varen's instincts, in the very air around them. And in that silent night, something shifted. A thread, faint but unbreakable, began to stretch across the void. Neither of them understood it yet, but the world was beginning to realign. Somewhere beyond forgetting, beyond fear, beyond law, destiny waited. Rain fell across the mountains like drifting silver threads. The sound soaked into stone, into forest, into the breath of the land. Varen rode down the northern trail, cloak heavy and dark with water. Weeks had passed since the dreams began, dreams of a voice calling his name, of a face half hidden by moonlight. Each morning he woke with the same ache in his chest, the same question pressed behind his teeth. He had told no one of the dreams. The elders would call them weakness, remnants of the curse. Yet the pull was too strong to ignore. He found himself tracing the edges of maps, his finger following the winding paths to the lowlands. Each time, the name he did not know burned hotter beneath his ribs. At dusk he reached the last ridge. Beyond it lay the human lands, shrouded in mist. For the first time in years, he crossed the border. The air changed there, softer, carrying scents of earth and wood smoke. He felt the strange thrum under his skin, faint but constant, guiding him onward like a heartbeat not his own. In the village, Siren watched the rain from his small window. His child, small now, curls damp from sleep, stirred against him. Siren brushed a hand through the child's hair, murmuring a lullaby he barely remembered learning. The tune belonged to another world, another life. He did not speak of the past to anyone. The humans thought him a widowed craftsman. He preferred their ignorance to their pity. The bond still glowed faintly beneath the skin of his neck. He had tried to hide it with cloth and herbs, yet sometimes it pulsed, a faint light beneath the scars. The curse was cruel. It had erased him from Varen's mind, but never from his own. Thunder rolled across the hills. Siren stepped outside, letting the rain wash over him. He closed his eyes and for a moment imagined that the sound in the distance, the slow rhythm of hooves, was not just a storm. Varen dismounted near the river's edge, gloved hand brushing the surface of the water. It was cold, sharp, real. He stared at his reflection and saw a man marked by something he could not name. The dreams had brought him here. The ache demanded answers. As lightning flashed, he caught a flicker of light at his collarbone, a symbol that glowed and faded before he could touch it. He did not know what it meant, but he knew where he needed to go. The village lights glimmered faintly beyond the trees, and miles away, Siren turned his face toward that same horizon, heart quickening, though he did not understand why. The storm was breaking. Something was coming closer, something he had feared and longed for in equal measure. The rain eased by dawn. Mist hung low over the village, wrapping rooftops in soft gray. Siren woke before the sun, as he always did, and lit a small fire to boil water. The sound of his child's soft breathing filled the quiet room. He moved carefully, adjusting the blanket, then stepped outside to hang wet herbs beneath the awning. The scent of wet earth mingled with faint smoke from distant chimneys. For a moment, the air shifted, strange, familiar. His fingers stilled. Something in the world had changed. He looked up toward the woods, pulse quickening, though there was nothing but fog between the trees. Beyond that fog, Varen guided his horse down a narrow path. He had spent the night by the river, unable to sleep. The dreams came again, flashes of light, the sound of a voice whispering his name, the brush of hands he could not remember. Each time he woke, his mark burned hotter. He followed instinct rather than direction, and instinct led him here. As the sun began to rise, he saw the village through the mist. A cluster of wooden roofs, smoke rising in thin trails. Something deep inside him steadied. He did not know what he expected to find, only that whatever waited here was the end of the restlessness that had consumed him. Siren moved through the market later that morning, hood drawn low. The villagers greeted him politely, unaware of the curse humming just beneath his skin. He bought flour, herbs, a small piece of fabric dyed with blue petals. When he turned toward the main road, the sound reached him first, hooves striking damp ground, a rhythm steady and deliberate. He looked up. A figure emerged from the mist, tall and cloaked in black, silver light catching on his armor. Varen reined in his horse at the edge of the square. Scanning the street, he did not see Saren at first, but the instant his eyes lifted, the air itself seemed to still. For one long, impossible heartbeat, they simply stared. The curse did its cruel work. Varen's mind blank, his heart in turmoil, Saren frozen between hope and disbelief. Bealfa's gaze flicked over him, unreadable, and then Varen turned away, murmuring something to the stable hand. Saren could not breathe. The sight of him, unchanged, yet unreachable, reopened every wound he had spent months burying. He gripped the edge of the stall beside him until his knuckles whitened. The bond beneath his skin pulsed wildly, answering a call the curse had not completely silenced. Varen handed the reins to a boy and stepped down. As his boots met the ground, the same pulse struck him, sharp, electric, disorienting. He turned his head sharply, scanning the street again, certain that someone had just called his name. But no one had. Only the sound of rain dripping from rooftops and a cloaked stranger moving swiftly away, shoulders trembling as though under a weight unseen. He did not know why he watched the stranger go. He only knew that something inside him whispered follow. And behind him, unseen, Siren slipped through the alleys back to his small house, closing the door with shaking hands. His child stirred, as if sensing the change in the air. He sank to the floor, pressing his face into his palms, whispering the name that the Alpha had forgotten. Varen. Outside, thunder rumbled again in the distance, though the sky was clear. The day passed in quiet fragments. Varen remained in the village, drawn by a pull he could not explain. He told himself it was to rest his horse, to gather supplies before returning to the fortress. Yet each time he looked toward the narrow street near the river, his chest tightened with the same ache that haunted his dreams. He walked those streets as the sun fell low. Children ran between carts, merchants closed their stalls. The scent of bread, the hum of ordinary life, it should have been comforting. Instead, it made the emptiness inside him sharper. At the edge of the village, he saw the small house. Lantern light flickered behind the curtains, soft and golden. He paused, his hand brushing the hilt of his sword, unsure why he felt the need to go closer. The same strange scent lingered in the air, faint sweetness, familiar and elusive. Inside, Saren sat beside the cradle. The child slept quietly, tiny fingers curled against the blanket. Saren traced the line of the mark on his own neck, feeling the warmth that had returned since morning. It was weaker now, but alive. He had seen Varen, breathing and whole, even if the Alpha's eyes no longer recognized him. That should have been enough. It wasn't. A soft knock startled him. He rose, heart pounding, and opened the door. Varen stood there, rain-damp cloak clinging to his shoulders, eyes searching. For a heartbeat, neither of them spoke. "I'm sorry," Varen said quietly. "I didn't mean to disturb you. I thought perhaps you could tell me the name of this village. I've lost my way." Saren's fingers tightened on the doorframe. He forced his voice steady. "It's called Brenfell, my lord." The Alpha nodded, gaze flicking past him for an instant, to the faint light inside, the cradle half hidden by shadow. His expression softened, confusion flickering in his eyes. "Thank you. Forgive me, but have we met before?" Saren froze. The words hit like a blade made of memory. He wanted to speak truth, to cry that they had shared everything, that he had crossed worlds for him. But the curse's mark burned faintly, warning him. "No," he whispered. "No, my lord, we haven't." Varen studied his face, uncertain. The air between them pulsed with quiet tension. He felt it too, the strange recognition, the pull that defied sense. He opened his mouth as if to speak again, but a shout from the inn across the square drew his attention. He turned slightly, then back to him. "Thank you," he said softly. "You have a kind voice." Varen lowered his gaze. "Safe travels, my lord." Varen hesitated another moment, then inclined his head and walked away. His footsteps faded into the rain. When the door closed, Saren leaned against it, trembling. The child stirred again, as if sensing the shift in air. He sank beside the cradle, fingers brushing the infant's cheek. "He's alive," he whispered. "He's alive, but he doesn't know us." Thunder rolled somewhere beyond the hills, low and distant. Outside, Varen stopped once more on the road, hand pressed over his chest. The mark beneath his collar flared, a faint pulse of heat that left him breathless. He did not understand what it meant, only that it felt like loss and love, and something just out of reach. That night Varen couldn't sleep. The inn room was silent, except for the faint crackle of fire. Yet his mind replayed fragments of that man's face, the soft calm in his voice, the way his eyes had held something ancient and breaking. It was madness, he thought. He didn't know the man, but still, every breath seemed to carry his scent. When dawn came, he left before the others stirred. The storm had passed, leaving the earth damp and shimmering with morning dew. The path stretched endlessly before him, yet his feet turned back toward the river instead, toward the small house. Saren was already awake. He had barely slept either, sitting by the window while the child dreamed. The faint hum of magic clung to the air, his and the bond's ghost that refused to fade. He looked out just as Varen approached, his pulse quickening, despite himself. When their eyes met through the mist, everything went still. Varen stopped a few feet away, voice low. "Forgive me. I didn't mean to come uninvited." Saren shook his head. "You're not unwelcome." His voice trembled despite his calm face. "I can't explain it," Varen said after a moment. "I should have left yesterday, but something keeps pulling me back here." His gaze dropped briefly to the mark at his collarbone. "I can feel it burn sometimes. I don't know why." Saren's breath hitched, the truth clawing at his throat. He looked away, unable to bear it. "Maybe it's a memory your heart hasn't forgotten." Varen frowned faintly. "You speak as though you know me." "I don't," Saren replied, forcing a small smile that didn't reach his eyes. "But you look like someone who's been missing a part of himself." The words struck too close. Varen exhaled shakily, stepping closer until the air between them thinned. "You remind me of something I've lost," he murmured, almost to himself. Saren's fingers trembled as he reached up, then stopped midway, the old curse flickering faintly along his wrist. "Some things return in different forms," he said softly. Varen looked at him for a long time, studying the pain that lived in his silence. Then, without a word, he turned his head slightly, his hand brushing against Saren's, as if drawn by gravity. The touch was brief, but it burned through both of them like the world had just remembered what it once was. A faint whimper broke the spell. The child had woken, crying softly. Saren turned quickly, lifting him into his arms, rocking him gently. Varen stared, unable to look away. "Yours?" he asked quietly. Saren hesitated before nodding. "Yes." Something flickered behind Varen's eyes. Pain, confusion, a strange ache he couldn't name. "He's beautiful." Saren smiled faintly, though his eyes glistened. "He has his father's eyes." The words were soft, but Varen felt them like thunder beneath his skin. He stepped back slowly, heart pounding, not knowing why it hurt. "I should go," he said, voice rough. Saren only nodded. "Take care, my lord." When the door closed again, his knees nearly gave out. The curse flared faintly along his veins, whispering its cruel reminder. As long as the truth remains unspoken, his soul will never remember. Siren looked down at the child, half of him, half of the Alpha who no longer knew his name, and whispered, "One day he will." The days that followed blurred into a fragile rhythm. Varen found excuses to return, sometimes bringing food, sometimes pretending to check on the human village. Each time, Siren felt the curse twist tighter around his heart. Every smile, every soft word from Varen carried both warmth and pain. The child had grown fond of him. Varen would kneel on the floor, letting the little one tug at his fingers and laugh. Siren would watch from across the room, his chest aching. It was cruel, this bond that refused to die. Cruel that Varen's every gesture echoed the love he'd once promised, even if his mind had been stripped of memory. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Varen lingered again after supper. The child had fallen asleep, and Siren was clearing away the dishes when Varen spoke, voice low. "That mark you wear around your neck," he said, eyes fixed on the faint scar barely hidden by Siren's collar. "What is it?" Siren froze. His hand trembled slightly as he touched the edge of the old wound. "Just an accident from long ago." Varen frowned, stepping closer. "It feels familiar." Siren looked up sharply, heart stuttering. The flicker of recognition in his eyes was fleeting, but real. He could feel the bond hum faintly beneath the air, straining against the curse. "Varen," he whispered before he could stop himself. Names spilled out with too much tenderness, too much history. Varen stilled, something in him breaking open. "You! How do you know my name?" Saren's lips parted, but the curse lashed through him like fire. The room spun, his knees giving way as he gasped, clutching his chest. The invisible force coiled around his heart, warning him that speaking the truth meant death. Varen caught him before he fell, panic flashing across his face. "Saren, what's happening?" He couldn't answer. Only shallow breaths came, his hand gripping Varen's shirt as tears streamed down his face. "It's nothing," he managed to choke out. "Please, just don't ask." Varen held him tighter, his instincts screaming with a bond he didn't understand. "Tell me what I can do. Tell me how to help." Saren shook his head weakly, eyes glassy with pain. "Stay, please just stay." So he did. Through the night, Varen stayed by his side, cooling his fever, holding his hand until the trembling stopped. When morning came, Siren stirred faintly, and the first thing he saw was Varen asleep in the chair beside him, their hands still tangled. His heart ached at the sight, tender and cruel all at once. He reached up and brushed his fingers against Varen's cheek, whispering so softly it could have been a dream. "You always stayed, even when you forgot me." Varen's eyes fluttered open then, catching the movement. He looked at Siren for a long moment, something wordless passing between them. "You talk in your sleep," he murmured. Siren smiled faintly, tears clinging to his lashes. "Do I?" Varen nodded slowly, leaning closer. "You called my name." Siren's heart stopped. "Did I?" Varen's voice dropped lower, almost reverent. "It sounded like you were afraid I'd leave again." The silence that followed was heavy with everything they couldn't say. Then, before either could think, Varen's hand found Saren's and held it, firm and warm. "I won't," he said quietly. "I don't know why, but I can't." Saren closed his eyes, trying not to cry, because even cursed love could still sound like forever. The following nights felt different. Something between them had shifted, subtle, fragile, impossible to name. Varen no longer came as a visitor. He came as if drawn by an invisible thread. He would bring small things, a new blanket, herbs from the forest, a repaired window latch, and each act felt like a quiet promise. Saren had stopped pretending he didn't wait for him. He'd find himself setting out an extra bowl at dinner, or glancing toward the door when the sky turned gold. And when Varen entered, the air would change, warmer, heavier, full of something unspoken. That evening, a storm had rolled in again. The child slept in the next room, the sound of rain steady against the roof. Varen sat by the fire, his long hair damp, while Siren moved quietly, drying his cloak. "You shouldn't have come through the rain," Siren murmured, his tone gentle but trembling slightly. Varen's eyes followed the motion of Siren's hands. "You know I couldn't stay away." The words stilled the room. The flames flickered between them, painting their faces in gold and shadow. Siren turned slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. "You shouldn't say things like that." "Why not?" Varen asked softly, standing now, his presence filling the space between them. "You act as if it's wrong to care for you." Siren's breath hitched. He stepped back, the memory of their bond pulsing faintly under his skin. "Because it is wrong," he said, though the words shook. "You don't even know why you feel it." Varen stopped before him, close enough that Siren could feel the warmth of his breath. "Maybe I don't remember the past," he whispered. "But my body does. My soul does." The silence that followed was unbearable. Siren's hands trembled, his resolve breaking like thin glass. "Don't," he pleaded weakly. "If you keep saying things like that, I won't be able to." Varen closed the distance between them, one hand brushing the side of Siren's face. "Then don't stop me." The kiss that followed was not gentle. It was desperate, aching, and full of everything the curse tried to erase. Siren clutched at Varen's shirt, the dam inside him breaking as years of silence burned away. For a moment, time forgot the curse, forgot the laws of clans and gods. When they finally parted, Siren's tears had already fallen. Varen's thumb brushed one away. "Why do you look like someone dying?" he murmured. Siren swallowed hard. The air thickened, the curse whispering faintly beneath his skin. But this time, the bond pulsed stronger, fighting back against the spell. The mark at Varen's neck glowed faintly, as if remembering the night he'd claimed him. Varen stepped back, touching the light, eyes wide. What is this?" Saren's breath trembled. "The truth trying to find you." He took Varen's hand and pressed it against his chest, where the curse burned brightest. "You marked me once. Against the law, against the gods. And the curse took everything from you." His voice broke, but not this. Never this. The world seemed to hum. The curse shuddered under the weight of memory. Varen's vision blurred. Images flashing before him. Moonlight, blood, the scent of rain, Siren's tears, his own voice swearing love under the forbidden tree. He gasped, stumbling back, clutching his head as the flood of memory tore through him. Siren caught him, holding him tightly as his body shook. "Varen," Siren whispered, tears streaming freely now. "It's all right. You remember." Varen looked up, dazed, eyes glimmering with recognition and heartbreak. Siren. The way he said his name, soft, aching, full of love and regret, was enough to break the curse. The glow vanished, leaving only silence. Then Varen's arms wrapped around him, fierce and trembling, as though he'd never let go again. "I found you," he whispered against Siren's hair. "Even through forgetting, I still found you." Siren clung to him, shaking. "You always do." Outside, the storm broke, and the first dawn light spilled through the clouds. For the first time in years, the curse was quiet. The days that followed felt unreal, like waking from a dream they had both been trapped in for too long. Varen's memory came back in fragments. His clan's hall under the blood moon, the moment he'd marked Siren. The sound of his name carried through fire and rain. Each piece cut deep, but beneath the pain was relief. He remembered love. He remembered why he had broken the law. Now, when he looked at Siren, there was no confusion left, only guilt and devotion. Every morning, he'd rise before dawn, tending to the fields near the house, as if building a life from the ruins of what the curse had burned away. Siren would watch him from the doorway, a faint smile curving his lips. The curse no longer bound him, but its scars lingered. Some nights he'd wake from dreams of that ancient world, of chains, of their clan's war cries, and Varen would hold him until the trembling faded. One night, they sat by the fire after putting the child to sleep. The air was quiet, heavy with things unsaid. "I saw him laugh today," Varen said softly, glancing toward the child's room. "He has your smile." Saren's heart warmed and ached at once. "And your eyes," he whispered. Varen turned to him, his expression solemn. "I miss so much." His first word, his first step. His voice broke, low and raw. "I should have been there." Saren reached across the table, covering his hand. "You couldn't. The curse wouldn't let you." "That doesn't make it easier," Varen said. "I still feel like I failed both of you." Saren shook his head. "You didn't fail. You were taken." His voice wavered. "You came back." Their fingers intertwined, silence settling again. Then, Siren's hand brushed against the faint mark on his collarbone, the one Varen had given him long ago. It still glowed faintly when their hearts aligned, a quiet reminder of what they had survived. "Do you ever regret it?" Varen asked quietly. "Marking me? Defying them?" Siren looked at him for a long time, eyes reflecting the flicker of the fire. "Never," he said. "If love was a sin, then I'd commit it again and again." Varen's throat tightened. "Even knowing it would curse us both?" Siren smiled faintly. "Even then, because I would rather live cursed with your love than blessed without it." Varen exhaled shakily, leaning forward until their foreheads met. "I don't deserve you," he whispered. "You never had to," Siren replied, eyes closing. "You were mine from the moment you called my name." Their lips met again, not desperate this time, slow, full of years of lost time and quiet forgiveness. The fire crackled softly, wrapping the house in a golden haze. For the first time, their hearts beat in unison without pain. The bond, once forbidden and broken, had healed. Later, as they lay together, Siren traced idle circles on Varen's chest, whispering, "We'll have to tell the clans someday." Varen chuckled softly. "Let them come. I'll protect you both." Siren smiled against his skin. "You always say that. And I always mean it." The quiet laughter faded into comfortable silence. The storm that had once ruled their lives was finally over, or so they thought. Because far from the human village, in the ruins of the old Alpha clans, the remnants of the curse stirred again, faint but alive, whispering of an unfinished bond and a price yet unpaid. The peace didn't last. A month passed, maybe two, and the quiet world began to tremble again beneath the weight of old magic. It started small, Varen waking with faint burns along the mark on his collarbone, Siren feeling sudden chills that left his body trembling. The curse, long thought broken, was not gone. It had merely slept. One evening, as dusk bled into violet, Varen stood outside chopping wood. When the air changed, the wind carried a low hum, the same pulse he'd felt the night the curse had first taken hold. He dropped the axe and rushed inside. Siren was on the floor, clutching his chest, eyes wide with pain. The faint glow of their bond seared bright across his skin. Varen was beside him in a heartbeat, gathering him close, whispering his name over and over. "It's back," Siren gasped. "Varen, it's..." His voice broke as another wave of pain hit, the ancient magic curling through his veins. Varen held him tighter, his own mark burning. "No, no, I won't lose you again." He pressed his forehead to Siren's, his voice low, shaking. "Whatever it takes, I'll end this." Siren's fingers fisted in his shirt, desperate. "If you try to break it again, it'll kill you." "I don't care," Varen said through gritted teeth. "I can't watch you suffer." But Siren shook his head weakly, eyes wet. "We both carry the bond now. If one dies, the other..." He didn't finish. He didn't have to. Varen's breath hitched. "Then we fight it together." He pressed his hand to the glowing mark, focusing, drawing on every fragment of memory from before the curse, old spells, forbidden vows, the bond they'd once sealed under the moon. The glow flared, fierce and blinding. Siren cried out as the curse resisted, threads of dark energy twisting violently around them. The house shook, walls creaking as power surged. The child woke in the next room, crying, but neither could move. Their bond had taken hold completely now, drawing both life forces together. "Look at me," Varen commanded, voice breaking but firm. "Don't look away." Siren did, tears streaking his cheeks. "Varen." "Say it," Varen whispered. "Say my name." The magic coiled tighter, as if waiting. Siren's voice came out trembling, raw. "Varen." The air cracked open. The curse screamed through their bond one last time before shattering completely, scattering like light through glass. The force threw them both backward, weaving silence in its wake. Varen was the first to move, crawling towards Siren. His hands trembled as he turned him over, still, breathing faintly, alive. Relief hit him so hard it broke something inside him. He pulled Siren into his arms, burying his face against his neck, whispering over and over, "It's over, it's over." Siren's fingers lifted weakly to his face, tracing the edge of his jaw. "You always keep your promises," he murmured faintly. Varen's laughter was broken and tearful, even the impossible ones. For a long moment, they stayed there, tangled together in the fading glow of the bond, listening to the quiet heartbeat that still pulsed between them. And then, beneath his palm, Varen felt it. Something softer, smaller. He stilled, lifting his head. Siren followed his gaze, eyes widening slightly. The glow had shifted. This time, it centered lower, around Siren's abdomen, pulsing gently like a second heartbeat. Varen froze. Siren's breath caught, realization dawning. It can't be. But the bond thrummed softly, warm and alive. The curse hadn't just broken, it had transformed. What had once been a mark of punishment was now creating life once more. Siren's tears fell silently as he pressed a hand over the faint glow. "It's his sibling," he whispered. The bond gave it back. Varen leaned in, his forehead against Siren's, voice trembling. Then the curse truly became a blessing. Siren smiled through his tears. "Maybe it always was. It just needed us to survive it." Outside, the first snow of the season began to fall, soft and quiet, as if the world itself had exhaled at last. The weeks that followed were gentle, almost unreal. The house, once haunted by the echoes of a broken bond, now hummed with life. Siren's child laughed and toddled under Varen's careful gaze, while the new life growing within Siren thrummed faintly, a constant reminder of their survival and love. Varen would sit by the fire each evening, tracing his fingers along Siren's arm, feeling the pulse of the bond beneath the skin. It was no longer a whisper of pain. It was a promise, steady and warm. Siren watched him often, marveling at the strength of the man who had returned to him, whole and unbroken. He reached for Varen's hand during quiet moments, squeezing it tightly. "You came back for me," he whispered, voice trembling, "even when everything tried to stop you." Varen's thumb brushed over Siren's knuckles. "I never doubted it, not for a second." One afternoon, as the sun spilled golden light through the windows, Siren felt a sudden movement in his belly. His hand flew to the spot instinctively, eyes wide. Varen was instantly at his side, kneeling. "It's time," Siren whispered, a mix of fear and wonder in his voice. Varen held him close, whispering words that soothed the ache and anticipation. "We're ready," he said, though he didn't know if he was. "We'll face this together." And they did. The night stretched long, filled with whispered encouragement, quiet songs, and the warmth of each other's touch. Hours passed, yet neither slept. Both gave themselves completely to the life that had been entrusted to them. By dawn, the cries of a newborn filled the room. Siren held the child, tears streaming down his face, while Varen brushed wet hair from his brow. The infant's eyes fluttered open, dark and glimmering, holding a reflection of both their souls. "You're ours," Siren whispered, voice cracking. Varen pressed a gentle kiss to Siren's temple. "And we're yours," he replied, voice low, full of awe. The bond between them pulsed stronger than ever. No curse could touch them now. Nothing could sever the connection forged in pain, memory, and love. Later they sat together by the window, the first light of morning spilling over their faces. The child slept between them, small and perfect, the future safe in their hands. Varen's hand found Siren's again, fingers intertwining. "We survived everything," he murmured. Siren nodded, resting his head against Varen's shoulder. "Everything and more. We have a family now." Varen smiled softly. "And the world can't touch us anymore. We'll write our own rules." Siren laughed, quiet and full of relief. "Then let's start by just being us for the rest of forever." They leaned into each other, hearts beating in unison, their bond unbreakable, their love triumphant. The storm had passed, the curse shattered, and life, in all its beauty and pain, had finally given them a chance to heal. Outside, the sun rose fully, golden and unwavering, as if celebrating the unbroken, eternal bond of two souls who had defied fate itself.